and there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another tremendous installment from very high above all the puerile and insipid forms of Wyoming mainstream media. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Friday. It has already been a really long week. And, the question is, how much work did they get done? Well, they worked late until the night last night. I think they finally signed off at, I don't know, 10:45, maybe 11 o'clock. But they pulled a marathon session last night going through the budget. And really, the way this budget session is shaping up, in my opinion anyway, is that maybe we might actually have a really substantive discussion about the budget because a lot of the other bills have died. So there's that story. Also, there is what I consider to be a really big story that happened about 10:30 last night on the floor of the House. There's already a piece about it on the Open Range Record. So while everybody was worried about the events from yesterday, the check on the floor, something big happened last night, and I think the entire media missed it. Well, I shouldn't say the entire media because I didn't miss it. The Open Range Record didn't miss it, and so there's a piece up there about it, and we'll talk about that. Let's see here. On today's program, there's a bunch of stuff happening in Washington, D.C. The EPA rule was finally repealed. That's a big story that you need to be aware of, and whether you realize it or not, that's one of those stories, one of those things that you have had to deal with for a really long time. And so we'll talk about that. There's a couple of pieces in the media that I want to mention. And so there's a lot. I've got a lot planned for you today. But probably the most important thing about today is it's Open Line Friday. That's right, my friends. It's Open Line Friday on Cowboy State Politics. This is the day where we're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about. You see, I don't know if you understand the tremendous risk that I put this program under. During the rest of the week, we talk about what I want to talk about, because after all, the reason you watch this show is to listen to what I think. But not on Friday. Friday, I want to hear what you think, and I want you to call in. If there's something that's been gnawing at you, go ahead and give me a call. The phone number here in the studio is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. Whatever it is, we'll talk about it. And so just go ahead and give me a call. If there's something that's been sticking under your saddle for a while, go ahead and let me know about it and call in. One more time, that phone number is 307-374-8989. There was another, and it's, it's amazing if you pay attention to what happens in the media very early in the morning, what you'll find is that there is a tremendous amount of stuff that happens before anybody really wakes up. There's a couple different morning shows out there. And, all of these legislators, most of them are media hounds. And so if you give them an opportunity to come on your program, they will. And our pal Landon Brown was on the Cow Pies morning show this morning, and he said something that is just absolutely tremendous. I mean, it works for the show. And by the way, it has been 1,850 days since Landon Brown agreed to an interview on Cowboy state politics and then didn't show up. And so, without further ado, here is what Landon Brown told Jake on the morning show of the Cow Pie this morning. Listen to this. You are not going to believe it, my friends.
Just no matter what you say and or do, they're going to see you as a traitor, or they're going to see you as somebody that went against what, like you just said, the party is always watching. And I claim myself to be very much a Ronald Reagan esque Republican. I don't fall in line with today's MAGA theory. That's not who I am. I do think that America should come first. I have always thought that, but some of this nationalism and some of these things that have come up lately have put me at odds with the party. And so I'll always consider myself a Republican. I am nowhere near a Democrat. But
that's not true
some of
at
those
all.
people out there on Facebook and Instagram and all those other places think differently.
Representative Landon Brown.
Right, I've had enough of that. According to Evidence-Based Wyoming, which they haven't done anything like real recently, but Evidence-Based Wyoming charted the legislative votes up through 2024. And all that site does is it tracks how often somebody votes with the Republicans and how often somebody votes with the Democrats. That's all it does. And according to Evidence-Based Wyoming, Landon Brown votes with the Democrats 80.92% of the time. Let me repeat that number. 80.92% of the time. Now let's just listen to what he said again. I mean, I'm not going to be able to get enough of this.
Just no matter what you say and or do, they're going to see you as a traitor, or they're going to see you as somebody that went against what, like you just said, the party is always watching. And I claim myself to be very much a Ronald Reagan esque Republican. I'm
telling you, my friends, I cannot get enough of that. Landon Brown is the furthest thing from a Ronald Reagan Republican. Need I say the name Liz Cheney? Liz Cheney. During the last legislative session, Landon Brown had Liz Cheney's book sitting up on his desk. For several days. He even showed it around. He's like, "Look at this! It's signed." Well, of course it's signed because you're like one of her two remaining fans in Wyoming. Oh, what a dope! But see, this is what these legislators do. They go on media shows early in the morning, and the Cow Pie is a pretty friendly show. And let's be honest, right? If you're a conservative, like an actual conservative, my show is a pretty safe bet for you. But for the Cow Pie, if you're a rhino, that's the place you go, man. If you are sporting a red coat, you go straight to the Cow Pie, and they will let you say idiotic stuff like that. So, by the way, Landon, I know that it's been 1,850 days since you agreed to come on the program and then didn't show up. But you're welcome on here anytime you like. Just if you want to debate Ronald Reagan with me, please come on the program. I am dying to have that conversation with you. All right, my friends. Well, that could you ask for a better way to start the program? I mean, it really. Okay, so that being said, there are a number of things to talk about. Now, I'm just going to say this one time. If you have questions about the whole check incident that happened on Monday night, I would refer you to the article that I wrote on the Open Range Record. It's right up on the front page. You can go read it for yourself, or you can listen to the interview that I did with Rebecca last night on our nightly news program, The Roundup. And you can listen to both of those, and that's all I have to say about that. There is no other media outlet in this state that would have done that. And what I mean by that is there is not another media outlet that someone would grill their business partner about something that happened. Not tooting my own horn, but if a lot of times if you don't, nobody else will. So those are my statements. You can go read them. You can watch the video, whatever you want to do, but it's up there. So let's go ahead and get to the news. And again, if you want to be part of the program this morning, go ahead and give me a call. The phone number in the studio is 307-374-8989. That'll get you right to me. But we begin, my friends, in the No, I don't want to begin there. No. I forgot about the big story that's on the Open Range Record last night. So last night, at about 10:30, Representative Bob Worf, and this is interesting. We need to go back and talk about this a little bit. So Bob Worf was the deciding vote on the recalibration bill. And he was he was the 21st person to vote against recalibration and to kill that bill. Had he voted with the other side, we wouldn't be having this discussion, and the recalibration bill would already be in committee. Actually, it would probably be out of committee at this point. But at 10:30 last night, Bob Worf got up at the microphone, and he announced that he was going to move for reconsideration of House Bill 110. House Bill 110 is the K-12 school finance bill, otherwise known as the recalibration bill. Now, while the rest of the media is salivating over my business partner, Rebecca, they missed this one. And this is really important because it puts the school recalibration bill back in back in the game. It's back in the hopper. It's we can talk about it one more time. But there's a number of things that have to happen before we can talk about the recalibration bill. And if you read this article, it's called Breaking News. Worf to ask the Wyoming House to reconsider the school recalibration bill. And so this is kind of a peculiar rule in parliamentary procedure, a motion to reconsider. Here's how it works. So on any motion, vote, whatever, if you want to bring it up again, you would have had to have voted on the prevailing side. So in this case, on the school recalibration bill, in the House, there were only 21 people that could move for reconsideration because that's the side that prevailed in that vote to kill the bill. And so Bob Worf was one of those. Like I just said, he was the deciding vote to do away with the recalibration bill. And so 10:30 last night, let me just read you the opening paragraph or two here. And I quote from my article on the Open Range Record, quote, at 10:30 p.m. Thursday night, after a marathon budget session, Representative Bob Worf notified Speaker Chip Nyman that he intended to move for reconsideration of the failed House School Recalibration Bill, or House Bill 110. Reconsideration is a peculiar parliamentary procedure move to bring a motion before the body after it has already been decided. It's a move to take another bite at the proverbial apple. What is peculiar about it is the person moving for reconsideration must have originally voted on the prevailing side of the motion. The motion must also be brought in the same legislative session. See, here's the other hitch in Bob Worf's giddy up, but we'll get to that in just a second. To succeed, reconsideration requires a majority vote, even if the original motion was 2/3. So it doesn't matter what the motion is. If you want to bring it up again and move for reconsideration, you would have had to have been on the winning side of whatever that vote was. So here's the other little problem with it. Reconsideration has to be brought the same legislative session. And so if they gavel out, if they not gavel out in legislature, that's the wrong term. If they adjourn for the day, right? We're done for the day. We're all going home. We need to get some rest. We'll pick it up again tomorrow. If they do that, then generally speaking, a motion to reconsider can't be used. Now, in parliamentary procedure, if all this is confusing, don't worry, it is. But the easy way to look at it is the body can vote to do anything that they want, so long as they follow the rules. Parliamentary procedure as a whole is meant to protect the rights of the minority in the chamber. So in this case, the minority in the chamber is the Democrats, or the Democrats in the redcoats, I should say. But there's a procedure to do just about whatever you want to do. You just have to do it correctly. And in this case, in order for Bob Worf to make that motion to reconsider, first, he would have to use another motion, which is called suspending the rules. And so anything, and again, I know we're getting way down in the weeds, but just hang with me and I'll explain this whole thing. So before any deliberative body whether it's the legislature or it's your city council or if it's a meeting at the Elks Lodge. They follow parliamentary procedure, and they set the rules as to how they're going to govern their meeting. For you and I, most of the time we use what's called Robert's Rules of Order. The legislature, they don't use Robert's Rules. They use another version called Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure. The broad strokes are all pretty much the same, though there are some small differences between Mason's and Robert's Rules. But like I said, that's getting down in the weeds. Don't worry about that. When a deliberative body, so city council, Elks Lodge, legislature, whatever, before they start, they have to accept the rules. Which this is an interesting point, and I'll get to in more depth when we talk about the Convention of States bill that's coming over from the Senate. But when you start the session, whatever it is, legislative session, city council, whatever, the first thing you have to do is accept the rules. So both sides have to know what rules they're all playing by. And so those are set, and then the legislature continues. And this legislative session, they did that very thing. There was a rules discussion. A couple people had a few amendments that failed. And then they continued on. Well, one of those rules is that to reconsider, it has to be done in the same legislative session. And second, you have to be on the prevailing side. Okay, so in order for Bob Worf to use a motion to reconsider, the first thing they have to do is suspend the rules. And so last night, it was Representative Steve Harshman that jumped up and said, "Oh, point of order. I don't think we can reconsider this vote. You know, it's already passed," which he was correct about that. And so they, had a little discussion. And finally, Representative Worf said, "Okay, let me refine my motion a little bit." And then he said that he intended to move to suspend the rules, which that requires a 2/3 majority. And then after that, he would move to reconsider the school recalibration bill. So this is actually a pretty big story because I spoke with Speaker Chip Nyman this morning. And here's what he told me on the phone. Quote, "I was thankful that Representative Worf brought this motion. This is an important bill that needs to be discussed. The courts are watching what we do with school funding. I think it's awesome that he decided to take another look at this." Okay, so that's what Speaker Nyman said. He realizes the gravity of the whole thing because if the legislature fails, and let's, okay, so hold that thought. I'll go on to the next one here. So if the legislature fails to pass a recalibration bill, what'll happen is it'll go to the courts. And the court will decide, again, how we are to fund Wyoming education, which it's a major separation of powers issue. We don't want the courts writing law. They already do enough of that as it is. And we certainly don't want them to be the ones to tell the legislature how to fund education. And so all these words are getting messed up, but there was another version of the recalibration bill in the Senate. As far as I know, it is still stuck in Dennis Beitman's drawer. Bo Beitman. His real name is Dennis. So as far as I know, the Senate version of the recalibration bill is still in the Senate president's drawer and hasn't been put back on the agenda. Now, he may have already done that this morning. It may be on the agenda. I haven't looked at what the Senate's doing this morning. But at this 10 seconds, where it's at is Bob Worf is going to bring a motion in the House this morning, which I cannot wait to watch that thing. And then we'll see if we can suspend the rules and revive House Bill 110. So this is a big story, and I'm kind of surprised. Well, no, actually, you know what? When you look at the Wyoming media, I'm not surprised at all. That they're salivating over, a story that's got some legs to it, and they're missing what's actually happening, which tells you a great deal about the Wyoming media, that they're not really there to tell you what's happening. Rather, they're there for clicks and views and reads, and that's why Jake this morning had about 14 different people on his show talking about this the check incident, which, okay, all right, it's a big story, but there are other things that we got to pay attention to, which is why I say we need to pay attention to this. All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to tell you about some of those stories. The EPA ruling is really big, and we should talk about that. So we'll do that in just a second. But first, an absolutely outrageous profit timeout. Back in a minute. Are you tired of all the meaningless political drivel floating around right now? Endless commentary that really doesn't have anything backing it up? Do you long for the days of true investigative journalism coming from an authoritative source who really doesn't care how popular and apparently good-looking a politician is? Fortunately for you, that's what I do on Cowboy State Politics. New episodes are published every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and you can get them anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest way is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There, you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles I might bring up during the course of the program. Cowboy State Politics Live, the program you're listening to right now, is broadcast every Tuesday through Friday, beginning at 8 a.m. Pay attention to all of that other block-headed nonsense if you want. Just make sure that you don't miss an episode of Cowboy State Politics. And now, back to our program. Welcome back to the program. David Iverson, Cowboy State Politics Live. It's Friday, open line Friday, at least for a few minutes if you want to be part of the show. The phone number in the studio is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. I'll leave the phone lines open for the entire hour, and if there's something you want to talk about, you just let me know. To the Cowpie, in an article entitled, Wyoming Cheers End of Obama-Era EPA Climate Change Rules. And I quote, Wyoming officials are cheering Thursday's repeal of an Obama-era rule that was the linchpin for EPA climate regulations under the Clean Air Act, including those for vehicle emissions. Called the endangerment finding, the 2009 Environmental Protection Agency ruling established that greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide endanger public health. In the years since, this ruling has guided the legal baseline for numerous federal climate change-related regulations that supporters say are critical and opponents say have led to overregulation and used to justify federal government overreach. Now, this is a really big point because this ruling has been what the federal government has used, well, for, going on 20 years to force all of us to abide by a whole bunch of different climate change regulations. And the premise underneath it is really kind of ridiculous. That climate change, or that carbon dioxide is a pollutant, that carbon dioxide is something that is going to destroy the planet. Now, you and I know that that's a preposterous premise, but let me just go through it for those liberal people in the Wyoming mainstream media that are listening. And, the funny part is I can see the numbers going up and down on the program. It's actually kind of funny. But anyway, so think about it for a second. You breathe in oxygen. Oxygen is necessary for all life on the planet. And when you exhale carbon dioxide. And so how could it possibly be that in the natural order of things, that God would create a pollutant coming. Now, I will admit there are some pollutants that come out of your body that nobody wants to be around, but carbon dioxide is not one of them. It is very literally plant food. So you exhale carbon dioxide, and there's some plants around, and they pick up the carbon dioxide, and through a process called photosynthesis, they change that carbon dioxide into oxygen so you can breathe again. This is one of the reasons why you should keep a couple of houseplants in your home, because they will help clean the air, because they take in carbon dioxide and they put out oxygen. So that's the natural order of things. And how could it is so preposterous to me that anybody would claim that carbon dioxide could ever be a pollutant. Years ago, I did an episode about climate change. I'll have to go back and research the archives to find out which one this is. Lord knows there's been over 1,000 episodes of Cowboy State Politics, so it'll take me a minute. But what I did in the episode is I kind of did some back of the envelope math, and just using sort of round numbers, tried to figure out how many trees it would take to deal with all the carbon dioxide produced by a certain amount of homes. And if you take just the Bighorn National Forest, which, in comparison to other forests, is actually kind of small. I mean, you look at it, yeah, it looks kind of big, but the truth is, in comparison to others, it's kind of small. But if you try to guesstimate how many trees are in the Bighorn National Forest, what I figured out is all of those would consume enough carbon to handle the carbon emissions from 20 million homes. Now, again, it's just back of the envelope math. I'm not a scientist or anything, nor do I try to play one on the radio. But if you are worried about carbon dioxide, and if you think it's something we should work on, you could save yourself a heck of a lot of time and probably money, and just go plant a couple trees. Each full-grown tree consumes 40 pounds of carbon every single year. And so you can do the math on how many trees it would take. And those figures are just the trees. That doesn't count all of the other vegetation that's around there, all of the plants, the grass, the weeds, all of those things that happen to be a little bit green. They all engage in a process called photosynthesis, which generates oxygen. Back to the piece in the cow pie. Quote, in this final rule, the EPA is saving American taxpayers about $1.3 trillion, eliminating the Obama-era 2009 greenhouse gas endangerment finding and all subsequent federal greenhouse gas emission standards for vehicles and engines of the model years 2012 to 2027. Lee Zeldin said the regulation used climate change as a weapon for 16 years of bad policy. Quote, referred to by some as the holy grail of the climate change religion, the endangerment finding is now eliminated, he said. As the Trump administration and Wyoming legislators and the state's legacy energy industries say, it's past time to reverse suffocating climate regulations. Others say that eliminating the rule ignores science and panders to conservative politics. Now, the people who are ignoring science are those folks on the left that believe in this climate change mumbo jumbo. All they would have to do is look outside, stick their head outside of their ivory tower bubble and see what's happening in their environment. But of course, a lot of these climate change idiots, they don't really go outside. They're just holed up at some university somewhere, churning out ridiculous policy that doesn't make any sense. So this is a big victory for all of us. And the reason why I say that, it has hampered everything you do since the Obama administration is, think about how many times you've been told what kind of light bulb you have to have, what kind of refrigerator you have to buy in your home, what kind of stove, how you can heat your home, what type of water heater, what kind of car you can drive. And most of the time they try to tell you that you should buy an EV, which in Wyoming, I don't know if you've noticed, isn't really that good of a choice. Just yesterday on the floor of the House, I heard a member who he does drive an electric vehicle, and he was lamenting about how there wasn't really that many charging stations around. Well, maybe you shouldn't have bought an electric vehicle to begin with. Now, let's see here. The cow pie, as usual, goes on for several pages. But one of the pieces that, and I think that all of us have come to realize that this is a reality, that it doesn't matter what policy is passed. It doesn't matter what law is passed. It is going to face legal challenges. And this one will too. Here's what the Cowboy says. As Wyoming's legacy energy producers praise getting rid of the endangerment finding, environmental groups are calling the move disastrous. Quote, the endangerment finding is the legal backbone of federal climate safeguards, Sobel said. It reflects overwhelming scientific consensus that greenhouse gases threaten public health and welfare. That includes western states like Wyoming, she said. This also may not be the last word on the issue, with legal challenges to the EPA's Thursday move are almost certain. Quote, courts have repeatedly upheld the endangerment finding, she said. Any effort to revoke it will face immediate legal challenges because the EPA cannot ignore scientific evidence or the statutory requirements of the Clean Air Act. David Pettit, senior attorney for climate law at the Center for Biological Diversity, that's one of those groups that if you... if you hear a flowery sounding name, it's probably a pretty terrible group, and that's one of them. Let's see here. He said that the EPA rule reversal may not be the sweeping win the administration is portraying it to be. Quote, in terms of energy policy, it's important to note that the endangerment finding that was repealed today only applies to EPA regulation on GHG emissions or greenhouse gas emissions, which it did classify carbon dioxide as one of those. From cars and trucks, he said in an email to the Cowboy. It doesn't apply to power plants, oil refineries, etc. Although I'm sure that the Trump administration will try to take similar steps to take climate change effects off the table. And here's how they listen to this. Listen to how he says this. I'm sure that the Trump administration will try to take similar steps to take climate change effects off the table. He doesn't say climate change rules. He says climate change effects. The underlying premise of that statement being that climate change is a fact, which it is not. It is a theory. It is a theory that, is not going to be proven for the reasons that I blatantly that I told you about at the beginning of the show. That it defies everything in our world, and it's just one of these man-made kooky theories that it just defies everything. That even the grass outside in your yard. You want to know why it's green? It's not because you water it. It's because of photosynthesis. But anyway, my friends, there you have it. The EPA rule out. That's an awesome win for you and me and everybody else. The cars you drive, the stoves you buy, the light bulbs you buy, all of it. All right, so we're down at the bottom of the hour. Let's go ahead and take our second break. And when we come back, we'll continue with the program. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Hunting season. Right about now, you're off with all of your pals, stalking the big gigantic elk or buck mule deer that you've been thinking about all summer long. And your lovely wife is at home, probably enjoying her time without you. But soon, my friend, all of that is going to come to a screeching halt. And I want you to think about just one little thing. She's able to park her car inside the garage because all of your hunting crap is with you right now. Now, if you'd like the marital bliss to continue, I suggest you make a call to Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They can build you a garage or a barn or any other type of metal structure for you to store all of your toys in so that your wife can continue parking inside the garage. And you can avoid sleeping on the couch for the next month or two. Call Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. Get them to build you a metal building before it's too late. Welcome back to the program. It's Cowboy State Politics Live, Open Line Friday down in the middle swamp. And it is as swampy as ever, my friends. And, maybe I should turn the camera back on before all right, so there we go. It is as swampy as ever, my friends. Maybe I should knock on wood that I haven't got the swamp sickness. Though I did kind of have it before I left, so I'm not, every year I come down here. At one point or another, I get a cold because this place is a disgusting petri dish most of the time. And think about it. You have people from all over the state, and the weekends they go home and then they come back, and it's a really jam-packed environment. You sit in the gallery, and I don't even know if you've ever been to, the Wyoming Capitol. You sit in the gallery, and most of the seats are right next to each other. And so, if somebody next to you has got a cold, more than likely you're probably going to get it. Fortunately for me, though, I haven't had that yet. I've got some great, home remedies going, so we'll see how it goes. So welcome back to the show. It's Open Line Friday, and the phone number in the studio is 307-374-8989. If you want to talk about something, go ahead and give me a jingle, and we'll talk about it, and whatever's on your mind. And, I really expected the phone lines would jam up this morning, considering what I pulled last night. The article about the check and the interview. By the way, both of those, again, they're on the Open Range record. You can go read them for yourself. You can watch the interview until your heart's content. It's amazing when I walk into the Wyoming Capitol that I don't get more questions. It's probably because the media knows what response they would get from me. I think that they probably have the mistaken impression that I would tell them just to go pound sand, which usually my inclination would be to just give them a comment, but make them look really, really stupid for asking the question. They've been avoiding me like the plague, though yesterday I did get quite a few looks. We'll see what happens today. Who cares? They would never do what we pulled yesterday. So anyway, my friends, back to the news from the turkey vulture. Wyoming lawmakers advance bill to give some local control over gambling. This has been one that has irritated me for a really, really long time. It used to be that gambling was constrained to horse racing parlors. Off-track betting, they called it. And then all of a sudden, actual casinos started popping up. There's one in Sheridan right on Coffeen Avenue. Their original sign said Wyoming Downs. Okay, so it's got some allusion to off-track betting. And then they changed the sign to Lucky Sevens. Now that smacks of a casino. And, if the Wyoming legislature wants this state to turn into South Dakota, they should go ahead and do it. But if not, they need to get a handle on this gambling thing, and leaving it up to local communities. Man, I don't know that that's an entirely good idea. But let's see what the turkey vulture says. And I quote, "As gambling facilities continue to pop up across the state, lawmakers advanced a bill Thursday that would grant cities and towns greater authority in allowing the businesses to set up shop at new locations. A conversation has been ongoing for several years as elected officials, gambling industry lobbyists, lawmakers, and Wyomingites, I hate that term, Wyoming citizens, all seek to find common ground on when government can intervene in the free market. Okay, so I love when liberal papers throw around the term the free market because they assume that conservatives mean that it's just a free-for-all. Get the heck out of the way. Well, the truth is, government doesn't need to be engaging in economic adventurism like the Wyoming Business Council. That is not the role of government. What is the role of government, however, is to regulate to the least extent possible, what sort of industries, how many of them. We do this a lot with alcohol establishments. And a few years ago, the Wyoming legislature gave communities the power to issue bar and grill licenses. I think that was a good thing. I always thought the small number of liquor licenses that were available in any given community based upon population ended up creating an artificial market to where if you wanted to open a bar or something, you had to come with the cash and buy an existing liquor license. I always thought that was a little unfair and it's anti-competitive and all of that. But here's the thing. We have regulations on just about everything, and I would be okay if there was, a similar setup to where, as we do with alcohol, with gambling, because I think that gambling addiction, there's lots of documentation to say that that's just as dangerous as an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction. Lord knows that that's an easy way to destroy a family, gamble away the rent money and all of that. Here's what the piece from the Turkey Vulture says. If approved, Senate File 45, local approval for simulcasting would represent a shift in how Wyoming regulates the expanding industry of historic horse racing and off-track betting. So this historic horse racing business, this is fascinating. So last year I was talking to one of these gambling lobbyists, and I said, all right, I see the signs everywhere that say skill game. How does that work? And he said, well, a lot of these are based on historic horse races. And so if you were a historic horse race aficionado, if you were a, historic horse racing historian, you could theoretically figure out which horse was going to win which race. And so that's how it qualifies as a skill game. But I don't know about you, my friends. Have you ever walked up to one of these machines and put $1 in? Most of them have nothing to do with horse racing. Not a single thing. They operate just like a slot machine. And so I think that that's one of those loopholes that the gaming industry uses to get around. But let's continue with the Cowboy. Currently, while the vast majority of gambling facilities are located within municipal limits, the authority to approve these permits rests solely with the Wyoming Gaming Commission and county commissioners, often leaving city leaders and residents as bystanders to the growth of gambling in their own neighborhoods. Senator John Kolb, who introduced the bill to the Senate Judiciary Committee, explained that the legislation is the result of an interim of collaborative work between the gambling industry, local governments, and the Wyoming Gaming Commission. He noted that the current process lacks a mechanism for municipalities to say no to a facility, even if the community has concerns. Quote, this will give them a local voice, and then it'll be up to our local leaders and elected officials to have a path that works with our community, Kolb said. Every community is different in the state of Wyoming, and we have lots of different situations, even within a county. And this allows that to happen. See, okay, so I'm glad I read that because I'm okay with that. The city council should have the ability to say no to the county commissioners. Now, it's true the county commission does have authority over the whole county, but it is the city that operates your local municipality. So in the case of Cheyenne, Laramie County is kind of a bad example, but we'll use it anyway. So the Laramie City Council, they have control of everything within the city limits of the city of Cheyenne. And the county commissioners, well, they have control of everything outside. Well, I mean, the whole county, but generally their purview is everything outside the city limits. And often you may have county commissioners and city councils that are at odds with each other on a given topic. And so absolutely, I think that city council should be able to say no if they don't want a gambling institution to come in. But I think that there needs to be guidelines, right? You can't have an elected body be able to say no to everything, right? That's anti-competitive. I mean, I think there needs to be a number set. And like I said, maybe handle this exactly like we do liquor licenses. I mean, this is a growing industry. And if you've ever been to South Dakota, and even outside of Deadwood, man, there are casinos everywhere. And it's you can't go in any place without seeing a slot machine or some other gambling device. I just really don't like it. I think that gambling is. I know that gambling is addictive. I think it's destructive. And even in Sheridan, man, there's 1, 2, 3. There may even be a fourth gaming parlor there. But the question is, how many do you need? I mean, and again, it's if a town elects a city council that's more favorable to gambling or less favorable, and if you don't like their decisions, then you vote them out. But this gaming thing, I think, requires a lot more discussion. I tend to side on the side of having fewer gambling parlors. I just don't like the look of it. And, okay, so Deadwood's fun for a couple of days, but that's about it. Not really all that interested in creating another little small Deadwood. I just don't like it. So anyway. It's going throughout the legislative session. Sorry about that little glitch in the show. I got a notice that had a little loss of connection there, so hopefully you didn't lose too much. Another piece from the Turkey Vulture: bill to put abortion-related question to voters fails Senate introduction. Now, if you'll recall, in the governor's State of the State address, I mean, he went to great lengths to say we have to defend the unborn. Yes, we do, absolutely. But maybe we should talk about the governor's hypocrisy. He was the guy that vetoed the Infant Born Alive bill. And he did call for a constitutional amendment. And at this point, I think that that's probably the only way that we're going to get the killing of babies outlawed in this state is with a constitutional amendment. Because our court certainly isn't going to follow the law, no matter what Lynn Baumgarten, whatever her name is, says. By the way, I got an interesting piece coming on her that you're going to enjoy. I cannot wait to drop this one later on this afternoon. Talk about hypocrisy. And I've got the document, and it is absolutely going to be incredible, my friends. I cannot wait to write this article. Right after I get done with the show, I'm going to start working on it. All right, so from the Turkey Vulture: bill to put abortion-related question to voters fails Senate introduction. And I quote, a bill to put a constitutional amendment related to abortion on the ballot in Wyoming failed introduction Thursday in the Senate, dealing a setback to abortion opponents who sought a popular vote after the state's high court recently tossed 2 abortion bans. Senate Joint Resolution 7, Right to Healthcare Access Separation of Powers, would have asked voters to amend the Wyoming Constitution to empower the legislature to define healthcare, quote, for purposes of the right of healthcare access, and to clarify when and how the legislature may impose restrictions on the right of healthcare access. It did not muster the high 2/3 threshold of votes required for introduction of non-budget bills during the budget session, and it failed by a single vote of 20 to 11. Let's see here. In 4-1 decision, let's see if they talk about the vote. Senate Joint Resolution 7 was sponsored by Tim Salazar, old Timmy, and co-sponsored by 20 far left and Freedom Caucus aligned members. Excuse me, I misread that. 20 far right and Freedom Caucus aligned members. Of course, the Turkey Vulture is going to refer to conservatives as the far right. We can't write an unbiased article to save our soul. Anyway, when Salazar presented the measure Thursday afternoon, it was framed as a way to tackle one of the most important issues as the day. Senator Nancy Case, a Lander Republican, a Lander redcoat, cast one of the no votes, authorizing the legislature to make such a sweeping definition gives the body far too much power, he said. Quote, the people of Wyoming would never go for it, Nancy said, and just misses the mark. I'll tell you what misses the mark, Nancy, is the Supreme Court decision, is Melissa Owens' decision in Teton County. That is what misses the mark because it is judicial activism. It is legislating from the bench, and everybody knows it. K.O. Case is one of those that he's never gonna vote to outlaw abortion in any way, shape, or form. Let's see here. What else we got? We've got about 10 minutes left in the program. You know what? I'm going to take our last break. And when we come back, there's an interesting piece that I copied from Breitbart entitled "Leftists Are Filing Free Speech Lawsuits Over the Fallout from Celebrating the Charlie Kirk Assassination." Of course they are. But we'll tackle that when we come back. Yeah, I know. The weather seems to be toying with us. 60 one day, 42 the next, and pretty soon, my friends, those 6s and 4s are going to turn into 3s and 2s. Though we all want to avoid it, that white stuff is coming, my friends, and you will be shoveling the walk in it. It's cold, it's unpleasant, and nobody likes to do it. But you could make it just a little bit more comfortable and prevent your feet from turning into a giant block of ice. In fact, you could keep them nice and warm and toasty, and your toes will never even know that they're outside. The rest of you may be frozen solid, but at least your feet won't be. To make all this happen, you just need a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Are you one of those guys that listen to the president just a little bit too closely, and now you're tired of winning? Are you getting the feeling that there's been way too many good things happening in our country, and you just can't take it anymore? Well, if you are, and you think you should follow Rosie O'Donnell's example and get the heck out of Dodge, you need to call Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She'll make those foreign country living ideas a reality for you. All you have to do is call 307-699-3519, and she'll make sure some freedom-loving, red-blooded American will now live in the home that you no longer want. If you want to sell your house, or if you want to buy one that's way better than the house you have right now, give Rebecca a call. Again, her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day. I'm only gonna get stronger.
Watch out! Cowboy state politics is only going to get stronger. This program's already expanding faster than I ever thought possible. Thank you very much for doing that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for everything you do for Cowboy state politics. You know, I thought before we end the program, I ought to take a look at what's happening this morning in the in the House of Representatives and the Senate. So on the agenda for Friday, the 13th of February, I forgot it's Friday the 13th. You know, historically, this has always been a pretty good day for me. Sometimes my birthday falls on Friday the 13th. No, I wasn't born on Friday the 13th. Shut up, leftists. But anyway, on schedule in the House of Representatives, as I already told you, I would think first thing this morning, you are going to hear that motion from Representative Bob Wharf. First, it'll be motion to suspend the rules. Second, it'll be the motion to reconsider the school recalibration bill. That's a big story, and I'm kind of disappointed. I'm always disappointed in the media, but they're not paying attention to it. So here's what's happening in the House. Top of the agenda is Day 2, Committee of the Whole, HB1. And if you are unfamiliar, there are always 3 days set aside to talk about the budget, and that's first on the agenda. And then there is a bunch of introductory votes that they can still do, but it's many of them are going to die anyway. And partially that's because of the morning's debate yesterday over the check incident. But a few of the bills that are on the first of the list: the Land and Water Fiscal Integrity Act, that's Kevin Campbell. Wyoming Business Council Evaluation and Reform by Rob Geringer. Hospital pricing transparency, digital taxonomy, protection of parental rights. That's a really important bill. I hope we get to it. Safeguarding personal expression at K-12 schools by Representative Lean. Let's see here. Political parties, county central committees by Nina Weber. And there's a whole bunch of other ones on here. Let's see if there's anyone. The Kratom Prohibition, which is House Bill 185. That's kind of further down on the list. Democrat Carly Provenza, political opportunist Carly Provenza. She's got her marijuana legalization bill, which is dead on arrival. That's House Bill 166. Let's see here. And then there's a whole bunch of others. As you go down through the list, there are a ton of them on here that have yet to be introduced. And then there are some there's a third reading consent list consisting of, let's see here, Wyoming pregnancy centers, birthing centers, oil and gas bonding, pool investment, the grooming of children bill. I thought that was really important. That's the one that the libs of TikTok blew up online. Long-term homeowner exemption, revisions. So, and then there's third reading, local government distributions. That's a bill they went through yesterday afternoon. That's the one that says local governments will get their direct distributions at around 7%. And then there's a number of bills on general file. So you can see that the agenda for the House of Representatives is pretty long. And during a budget session, you have a shortened amount of time. In the Senate, they have, let's see here, first on their agenda, introductory votes. There's a zoning protest, eminent domain, strategic investments. There's the K-12 major maintenance bill, economic development rodeo museum by Driscoll. No doubt he wants to give them a ton of money. That's what he always does. Wyoming Business Council amendments from Crum. That guy turned out to be a total redcoat. And then there's second reading, let's see here, elections, voting machines. All right, third reading consent list. And then the budget bill, Day 2. And sources have told Cowboy State Politics to watch what the Senate does with the budget bill, because they're probably just going to pass the governor's essential budget. Yeah, right. There's nothing essential about that stupid thing. All right, my friends. Well, that pretty much gets us around the horn. On today's broadcast. There's a lot happening in the Wyoming legislature. Please tune in and watch it. You can watch everything that's happening on YouTube. And tomorrow I'll have a weekend update for you, and then we'll pick it all back up on Monday. But for now, my friends, have a good weekend. If you're traveling home, please be safe. I'm not this time around. We got Valentine's Day tomorrow, and I have husband duties to do, so we'll be staying here. But anyway, have a good weekend from the depths of the Middle Swamp. I'm David Iverson, and this is Cowboy State Politics. See you tomorrow. Well, I won't see you. I'll see you Monday.